what does the word gutsy mean to you?
Oh, gutsy. Oh, this is a good one. What does the word gutsy mean to me? Taking action is like the first thing that comes to mind. Taking action may not always feel comfortable, but while doing it and after doing it, I feel like this incredible sense of accomplishment and like pride.
You're listening to the Gutsy Podcast, where we talk about all things real, raw, and ridiculous about running a business authentically. Whether you need an inspirational pick-me-up or a swift kick in the mental ass, the Gutsy Podcast is your bi-weekly guide to getting out of your head and back into action. I'm Laura Ora, branding and mindset coach for female entrepreneurs, CEO of Works & Co., and your host on this journey through entrepreneurship. It's time to fuel your gutsy. Have you ever heard of hypnosis? If so, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it one of those strange seminars where people make people bark like a dog or someone's dangling something in front of people? Well, we're going to shift that vision today because hypnosis and subconscious reprogramming can be an incredible tool to help you achieve your goals faster and easier. Today, we're chatting with Julie Costa about hypnosis, what it is not, and how you can use it as a tool to rewrite limiting beliefs, release old blocks, and finally step into your most successful timeline yet. Julie is a certified master clinical hypnotherapist and trainer and the founder of Anchored Coaching Certification Program. As a coach and hypnotherapist, Julie helps you achieve your goals quicker and faster with hypnosis and subconscious reprogramming. Before we chat with Julie, though, I want to let you know I've opened up a couple more slots on my calendar for February for clarity sessions. This is an incredible 45-minute session because it helps us to get to the root of what's going on, to honor what you really want, and to learn how to move forward. Most of the people that book clarity sessions are women that are teetering on the edge of a life shift. You can feel that tug for more, but releasing the old feels kind of scary. Maybe moving forward is unclear or overwhelming, and you just need some guidance and accountability. You're ready to make the move. You just need some guidance as you do it. If this is feeling like you, I encourage you to go to lauraora.com and book a clarity session with me. I promise that by the end of that call, things are going to feel way more doable than they did before you started. Today's conversation about hypnosis is really enlightening, and it helps you to really understand how the brain functions and why you've maybe not been able to move forward yet. So let's get into today's episode. Julie, welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I have to give our listeners a little bit of a history because Julie, first of all, is freaking phenomenal. Julie came across my TikTok For You page. We were trying to remember, probably 2-ish years ago.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
there was just an energy about you. You're always just smiling. You have just this like happy, radiating energy. And you started talking about hypnotherapy and hypnosis and subconscious reprogramming and I'm into that kind of stuff. So I was like, you have my
Yeah.
attention. I like your energy and I like what you're talking about. So I watched your stuff for a really long time. And then I was like, I'm gonna I'm gonna book a session. I'm gonna do this. And so we did some techniques together and had some pretty profound stuff happen. And we've just stayed in touch. And I just think it's absolutely stunning how one app can bring two random ass people together that now support one another on an ongoing basis. It's amazing.
It's my favorite thing in the whole world. And I think about like, yeah, all the other people I've met as well on TikTok or Instagram. And it's just like one small exchange on there, like in the comments on a video can just like transpire into something like pretty freaking magical. So
Yeah.
here we
It's
are.
here we are. The other interesting I was just thinking as you were saying that is how when you see somebody's video, it's like there's still kind of a bit of a disconnection. Like, are they a real human? I mean, I know that they are clearly, but I don't know, when you have that first interaction and then the social portion goes away and like the human connection comes in, you're like, oh, you're just like me, right? Like we're just two great
100%.
people doing what we love to do and trying to help people along the way.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that too? There was such a period of time when I was on TikTok that I was like trying to make it be a certain way for me. And I
Mm.
always felt like for a long time, I was like a weather reporter coming on TikTok, like with this hook and being like, hey, do you want to hear about hypnosis today? And then it just didn't feel good for me. And then I was
Yeah.
like, no, just show up and like talk about what I want to talk about. And like, that's it. And like, that's where more of the humanness comes from. I was like trying to make it be something else instead of just being myself.
Isn't it funny how when the more you are yourself and the more you do it in a way that feels good to you, the easier it gets and the more growth you
Yes.
experience?
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. And I think that's why people feel so like confused, exhausted, frustrated, especially business owners with social media, because they're making it be a certain way instead of, like you said, like just being yourself.
Yes. I find that the more raw that I am, the more like blunt that I am, the more just the way that I naturally guide and help people get out of their own way, the numbers don't lie. People are like, that's what I need. I'm tired of having smoke blown up my ass. I'm tired of like the dance around. I'm tired of the shoulds. It's just amazing. So, total side note
Mm-hmm.
here to everybody that the more you are you, the easier it gets to be. Period.
100%. And the way to be you is all like, you also got to tap into you. This is a conversation I actually had with somebody earlier today. And we can just consume so much or like want to just listen to the other person, the other person, the other person, right? Like on social media. Well, what are they saying I should do? Because that's where all these shoulds are coming from what everyone's saying. But the more you tap into you, like it does become so much easier
Yeah,
to just be you.
absolutely. And a little bit of the way to find more about who you are is
Hmm.
through subconscious reprogramming and hypnosis. So look at
That's
that.
one of my favorite ways.
Isn't that happens to be what we're talking about today? So you've had a pretty profound and incredible journey of your own and also have transformed so much using the techniques that you now teach. So tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about your story and your journey and how this stuff has helped guide you.
Absolutely. So it's definitely helped on a personal level and then on a professional level. So personally, I am at the time of this recording 44 years old and I lost my mom like tragically suddenly at 10 years old in a car accident and I went to therapy for years, but there was just like a lot I suppressed. There was like something about like my grief journey, my healing, where just like it took a toll and it was with me for a really long time. Not to say grief ever goes away, but I didn't properly deal with it and process it for decades. And it wasn't until honestly subconscious reprogramming and hypnotherapy where I was able to like dive in a little bit more and also helped me rekindle my relationship with my dad because he had kicked me out when I was 16. So we had a very, very rocky relationship. And through this work, through like learnings, through techniques, it helped rekindle my relationship with him. And it's in like a really great space now. I know I cannot change him as a human being, but I can change my response to the situation if I choose to and I wanted to. And so that's been really great so far. And then it's also honestly with like just like the grief journey, the way I deal with it is just like really different. I feel like I'm in much more like a honoring her than yeah, like being so like sad that I was before and hurt. And I'll share I had this like underlying feeling of guilt that was like running my life. And I thought, well, I can't be happy. I can't fall in love. Like I can't be truly happy for myself because my mom's not here. And I, like felt guilty about all those things and then like surpassed her in age. And then again, through this work, I was able to, and this one was honestly very recent, um, yeah, like release that underlying guilt and be able to like just like live a more like happy life, like knowing she is fully there. So like personally, like those have been huge the way I react in situations, like I respond now versus react. I'm way more patient and I'm way more calm. And then professionally, again, we were just talking about this. I was the type starting in entrepreneurship, like jumping from course to course, coach to coach. I had to learn all the things because in my head, I was like, man, I'm like seeing all these people on social media and like all these coaches and like, why are they making it look so easy? And like, why is it feeling so hard? And why is it not happened for me yet? And it was really through this work that I started unpacking a lot of things and beliefs under the surface for myself. And so I went from honestly feeling like burnt out, like hardly attracting any clients to booked out. And now am like teaching and training others this. It's like that ripple effect and that like impact now for me. So it's been a wild journey, but like a really great journey.
It's so much about finding out more about yourself, right? And versus going outside of yourself for validation, information, direction. I mean, don't
Hmm.
get me wrong, it can be really powerful to have a guide, a coach, a mentor, someone close in your life to help just like, hey, hear me out. I need a little bit of guidance. That's very different than tell me what to do and how to do it, and I'm going to follow your method, right? Two very different things, but it's
Very
super
different.
easy, especially when you're not super sure about who you are or what you really want. You're seeing these people just like knocking it out of the park, and you're like, well, it's working for them, so I need to do what they're doing. Or this sounds like it's the key to my success, so that's the thing that I have to invest in. And like it's a totally different energy.
Very different. Like I would literally see someone online and they had a sold out launch and then they had a launch program. And I was like, done, I need that. Cause now I need to learn that. Right. Or, and I was doing like, I feel like three things at a time always. So I was like hearing from all these people. A lot of them had like conflicting views. So talk about just being even more confused. And then I left very little time for implementation. So I was like, not having any time listening to myself and like what actually felt good for me and like what I wanted to do. I was very much heavily relying on the opinions of others.
Oh, absolutely. So what was kind of that turning point, or what shifted within you that took you from absorbing what everyone else is telling you to do to listening to yourself and doing it your own way?
Yeah, I'd say that was more so probably in like in the past year and a half. So because I at that point in time was creating my coaching certification program and there was like a lot of time and energy that needed to be invested in that because it was like very much an undertaking. So there's no way I could spend more time in like another course, another strategy because this is where my energy had to be in like really creating it. So I think that honestly was the starting point. And then the more I started to see, I was like, wow, I haven't invested in as many things. I was more so making like my own decisions, like even with the launch strategy of my program, like I'm still doing the same thing. And it's like a long launch. Like it's over the course of like 6 months, but that feels so freaking good for my nervous system
Yeah.
versus like things I've been taught in the past. So honestly, that was the tipping point is like I couldn't invest in anything else because the time I had needed to be spent on putting this certification program together. And I think it was just like through that, I was like, wow, I'm also like starting to go on walks and I'm like not listening to as many podcasts either. Or now I'm not go like in as many courses or programs. Like it was a lot of more like quiet time. And then I was like,
But
this feels great.
well, it's that introduction, like you said, to your nervous system. Like, hey, there is another way. Like I don't have to feel like that all the time, because I've been in the same
Mhm.
boat, honestly, up until very recently, where it's like do the thing, launch the thing, sell the thing, like a thing. And I'm very much like you in the sense that like my body is like, there's a lot of things. I'm pretty good at like, you know, stuff, but too many things consistently all the time. Like my body and my energy just does not respond to that. And then it doesn't go as well as you hope it will. And it's not as successful. And then you beat yourself up, and it's this whole la thing, right?
Hmm.
So I love that you gave yourself space to focus on something. Give yourself the option to focus on something and start to feel what that feels like.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
like an appetizer, like hold on a second, there's another way. Let me do this more often.
And then you just be surprised at like the answers that start coming up within you because I was just so heavily reliant on others. Like if I had a question of like, oh, what should I do? I was immediately like asking a coach, should I do this? Should I do that? But because that time was like more quiet and I had like less of that, I was asking myself, I'm like, oh my God, like I can answer these questions myself.
Yes, absolutely. One of the tools that you use to help with this too is hypnosis,
Yeah,
right? Like,
it's absolutely one of my favorites. What I've also been like really proud of just for like my own development is that I don't just say like I'm a hypnotherapist and I'm just like talking about it and preaching about it. Like I actually am doing the thing, like I'm walking the walk. And
Yes.
I am like, I'm listening to my own audios at least, I'll say like at least 3 times a week, or subliminal audios. Or I have one of my mentors and trainers, and I'm digging in and doing some like one-on-one work with them. But yeah, this is the work that's like really supported me. And I just personally find with anything that we do, as long as we're like service-based providers, like what we're talking about, like we're also walking it as well too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It gives you such a deeper perspective and helps to guide people in such a way that it's very, I don't know, it just feels ethical. For
Yes.
I mean, at a
Mhm.
baseline, it's ethical.
Yeah.
The intention is there.
Yeah.
It's rising tide lifts all ship type of energy. So talk to us about what is hypnosis for maybe somebody that's
Yep.
not sure or has a predetermined thought of what hypnosis might be. And then also tell me what it is not, because I know there's a
Mhm.
very clear picture that a lot of people have of what hypnosis is. So
There
give us
is.
the baselines.
Yeah, I'd say most people, if they've never heard about it, I always hear the same thing. So I'm going to start with what it is. And at the end of the day, it's a relaxed state. That's the goal of hypnosis, is to simply get you to a relaxed state. So we need to relax your body in order to relax your mind. We relax your mind because we need that like conscious part of your mind, aka the ego, to like take a back seat. And once it takes a back seat, then we are getting into and working with your subconscious part of your mind. So like that's the part of the area of the brain that we're working with when it comes to hypnosis, because that's where all your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, thought patterns lie. And in order to make change, we need to go in and rewire, reprogram, shift, change the beliefs that have been there for years, if not decades. So at the end of the day, it's really just it's a relaxed state. And most people do enter a hypnosis, like a trance-like state, like multiple times a day. Let's say if you're like watching TV, like scrolling on your phone, you're driving to the same place, and like you just, you know it like the back of your hand how to get there. Like we enter this trance-like state multiple times actually throughout the day. And so hypnosis, it just feels like meditation, or you're going into like a light sleep state.
Very
That's
nice.
really what it is.
Okay. So what is it not?
What is it not? So when I ask people, I'm like, okay, if you've never experienced it, like what do you think it is? And I always get the same thing. It's what they see in entertainment shows or comedy shows. Like there was an R-rated hypnotist by me when I was growing up. Being made to do something against your will is definitely what comes up. People think, what they've seen in shows, like, oh, you're gonna make me bark like a dog or cluck like a chicken. And that's just it's not hypnosis. There's certainly hypnosis for entertainment purposes. And at the end of the day, like no one's ever being made to do things against their will. When we talk about like ethics, like we can't do that. That's actually very unethical. And your subconscious mind is highly moral, highly ethical, and it would never allow you to do something that you did not want to do. So I always like to say it's a done with process, not a done to process. So we
Mm,
co-collaborate and work together.
I think that's probably a really important part of the process for people to understand because there's this like surrendering, or are you gonna take over me, or are you gonna mind control me? Again, all that kind of I see like 90s sitcoms in my head. That's what I
Yeah.
think of, right? Like,
Or they
the
see
whole
an old man like holding like a stopwatch or something like that.
yes. And then
Or
they snap their fingers and all of a sudden you're a dog, right? Like it's just
yeah,
so not what it is. But so creating that kind of safe space to know that, I am still in control of every part of me.
100%. Yeah, because it's like I can't make you close your eyes. I can't make you open your eyes. In fact, you can open your eyes at any given moment during hypnosis. You're in full control. I'm simply there, or your hypnotherapist is simply there to guide you with the suggestions like you've already collaborated with together.
Hmm. What are some of the uses for hypnosis? Like, why would somebody go through this type of practice?
Yeah, I'd say most people come to me, well, first for a variety of things, but always they've tried a bunch of things beforehand. I feel like it's
Mm.
never like your first choice, right? It's always kind of like a mid to last choice. But a lot of the things that I work on with people, increasing confidence. I do work with a lot of business owners, coaches, entrepreneurs. So easily showing up on social media or social media feeling easy, comfortable being seen, being visible, money blocks. They're not where they want to be financially, or they are at an income plateau. I've also done some very random things with like fingernail biting and quitting vaping, quitting smoking, weight loss. Someone wanted to be able to like swallow supplements. Now they can swallow supplements. It's like such a variety of things. It's like any behavior you wish to change that's not serving you, we can change a behavior. And a behavior you usually come to me with is not the real problem. So we kind of get to like that real problem and
Ooh,
unpack that.
interesting. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's fine. I actually just put an Instagram reel up about it today. So and I'll use the example I used in there too. Like somebody will come to me with the presenting problem. This potential client was procrastination. And it was like really affecting her because she wasn't getting the things done in her business that, she really wanted. So she wasn't seeing the results she desired. And so people will come with the presenting problem, but it's never the real problem. That's only like a behavior or a symptom of the real problem. And so my goal is to kind of just get some context and unpack what's going on. And so in the span of 20 minutes, because this was just a consult, we unpacked that growing up, she had a parent figure where everything had to be perfect. And so she
Mm.
learned everything needed to be perfect. And there was a core limiting belief that was formed for her of I'm not good enough. And the procrastination is showing up because she's fearful of putting anything out there or doing anything because she thinks it's not going to be good enough because it's not going to be perfect. So that's why procrastination, that's how it manifests and that's how it shows up. And that's how it's like sabotaging, her results and what she wants. And so then with clients, we like really work on that core limiting belief, I'm not good enough. Because once you work on that, procrastination starts to dissolve, but then you also can get to a point where like another behavior wouldn't pop up in its place. So we clear that
Gotcha.
belief and then we'll reprogram the procrastination. So yeah, it's like there's always a presenting problem, but it's like never the real problem.
When you do find out like the root, that's a game changer.
Game changer. And I can't tell them what it is.
Right.
I have to ask questions and then they end up saying it. Because it's not gonna be powerful if I'm like, oh yeah, this is your core limiting belief. Like it doesn't click.
Yeah.
So the way that it comes up is I'm asking questions and then they might just say it in passing and not even like understand that they did, but I'll pick up on it. Or they'll be very aware of what they just said, and then it pretty much clicks.
Yeah. And when it clicks, I don't know, there's just something shifts completely, like on a
Yes.
cellular level, because now it's almost like everything becomes clear and you can
Hmm.
see how that thing has transpired in everything else or how it
Yeah.
shows up, or now like I understand why I do this, right? Like there's not something wrong with me, quote unquote. It's
Yes.
this core limiting belief, it's this core subconscious programming that has led me to these actions.
Yeah. No, there's nothing, it's not a like good, bad, right, wrong. It just is what it is. We all have them, right? Like we all have them. Nobody is born or nobody's raised without them. And we all have limiting beliefs, but like the good news is you can work on them. And I always say too, I'm like, man, I wish all my clients could really hear each other because then you'd realize, wow, there's so many other people like me. Like we actually are
Yes.
all so similar. And that's the part that's pretty interesting to like hear across the board.
And it's powerful too, because it's very easy to be like, what is wrong with me? Why am I having this problem? Why is it so unique
Mhm.
to me? And it's like everybody's got their own version of it.
Yes. Yeah. It just
Everybody.
manifests a little bit differently, but we all have limiting beliefs going on.
Yeah. So the hypnosis is helping, and
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, the hypnosis is helping to reprogram the subconscious. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Awesome.
So yeah, hypnosis helps to reprogram your subconscious. So let's, say that belief of I'm not good enough or the behavior of procrastination. There's a couple different ways you can go about it in hypnosis where you're really telling the client like direct positive affirmations and suggestions based on what they've shared. Visualization, like painting this crystal clear image of what their life and or business looks like when they are not procrastinating it anymore and what they desire to be, what they desire to look like instead. You can tell metaphors. So like you can create a story where they're like listening to the story, but like the lesson in it is all about the procrastination and not having it. And like there's a character, there's like a lot of different ways that you can write a hypnosis script. But yeah, we're reprogramming the subconscious mind with what they desire instead.
And how I'm just kind of like fascinated by the technicalities of that. Like, how is that happening? How are we reprogramming a thought or a belief in a moment like that?
Yeah. So first things first is it's hard to consciously grasp. And that's typically what we try to do, right? With that like over analyzing, like logical mind. And that's the part of the mind that's put to sleep. That's the part of the mind that like can go take a rest. But the subconscious, that's from the ages of 0 to 7. That's the only part of the mind that we had, the subconscious. So it's like a sponge and it took everything in. Conscious wasn't developed yet until like 7 years old. So in order to go in there, like that's where all those beliefs are, we get to go in. And when I say go in, when you're in hypnosis, your brain waves are slowed down. And
Hmm.
so now because your brain waves are slowed down, the subconscious mind, that's the one that's more alert, more awake, and then that's the one that we're working with. So the goal is really like slow the brain waves down in order to get to the subconscious.
I want to peel back the layers of a clarity session that I had recently. This person jumped on a call because they know that they're ready to make a change but haven't been able to. And not because they can't, but because there's just something energetically about it that has not allowed her to move forward. Keep in mind, this is a high functioning, call the shots, powerful, powerful woman. So I looked at her and I said, "Why do you continue to tolerate this?" She took a big deep breath, sat back in her chair, and said, "I have no idea. I've never asked myself that before." Clarity sessions are for mini breakthroughs that help guide the way to making the lasting change. Sometimes you just need the space to say and feel what you need to feel and to be asked the right questions to know how to move forward. It's your turn to experience this, my friend. Go to lauraora.com and sign up for a clarity session because the answers just might be a lot easier than what they seem right now. Ooh, interesting question that just popped up in my brain to ask you is, do you think that that might be why we avoid stillness sometimes? Because in
Ah.
stillness, yeah, I'm having like an epiphany right now. Because in stillness, if the brain waves are slowing down, the subconscious is gearing up, then all that shit starts to come up to the forefront.
Yeah, 100%. It's the same way like somebody like why somebody would keep themselves busy. They're keeping
Mm-hmm.
themselves busy because they don't want to be still, because they don't want to be quiet because of what would potentially be presented to them by their subconscious that they don't want to deal with,
That's
which was
interesting.
me for so long.
Yes, at myself included in that situation because stillness can be really uncomfortable because
Very.
you're facing yourself, you're hearing yourself, you're not distracted from the things that keep popping up, right? Like when you're busy and doing stuff, it's like not now, later, not now, later. And then you form a new habit, which becomes a new subconscious belief. And now there's a whole new cycle.
And here's the thing too with the subconscious mind is its number one job is to keep you safe. So it would only present to you in those moments of stillness, like what you're ready to handle at that moment
Mm.
in time. I've been doing this work for many years and like I'll share, like I just had a day with my mentor and like about a month ago and something new was presented to me because it's like I've been, continuing to peel the layers back and it's like I wasn't ready before at those moments of time to deal with it and like now I am. Not to deal, but just to like respond to it. So it's like in those moments of stillness, you'll only be presented like at that moment what's important and what you're ready to handle.
Interesting. When I think about accessing your subconscious, when you become aware of those things, you can see them more clearly in the like conscious day to day. Am I right in saying that?
100%. Because what you're doing is, so this is just like a fun fact. Every like given second, there's like 2.3 million bits of information like coming into your awareness through your subconscious. You can't handle all that consciously. So you go through this like filtration process. So it's kind of the same thing where it's like you're accessing the well of your subconscious to potentially, I don't know, access. memories, thought patterns, stuff like that. And then you can bring it into your conscious awareness and be more consciously aware of it now.
And then it's in those moments that you get to consciously shift the behavior or the thought or the habit or the pattern or whatever, the emotion. That's where you get to make like the ongoing change.
Yeah, I wish I had I have like a really great photo in my training where it showcases the things that we work on in shifting with subconscious reprogramming is like everybody's internal representation, like their definition of things through this processing system. And once you take that, your physiology, like how you're like holding yourself, feeling in your body, like that creates your state, your internal emotional condition. That's going to always dictate the behaviors that you take or don't take. And then that would lead to your actions or inactions. So it's always going to stem from this internal representation, which is like based on beliefs. Yeah, plus physiology, plus state. And that means like you're bringing stuff into your conscious awareness of like how you choose to respond.
So in hypnosis, are we changing that? Like, I feel like some people might be like, okay, I'll do hypnosis and I'll just fix it there and it's gone. But, and I'm certain that that could happen, but
Mhm.
is that, is that the norm or is that like we're just getting started?
I say just getting started. So typically with clients, I don't dive into hypnosis like right away. I personally believe in a process of just like a little bit of digging in. I want to get some context about life events and experiences. I don't need a full story. We don't need to relive anything. Perfect example in that consult, 20 minutes. Like I had a good understanding of like what was happening. But then I believe in like a release component. We got to release some stuff that's just been like there, like stuck emotions, limiting decisions. So I do a modality, time techniques to release that and then start reprogramming for success. And then when it comes to hypnosis, I mean, we're talking about beliefs that have been there years, not decades. So it's not a one and done. Like that's typically not how it works. Your subconscious like needs, thrives, wants repetition. So I always say like the repetition piece, the consistency, and just patience. Some people like after one session, they may be fine. I give copies of my audios to clients so that way they'll continue then listening to that specific session, let's say on procrastination. And I'll give them a certain time frame, like, I don't know, listen to this, 2 to 3 times a week for the next 4 weeks so that we can build that repetition piece. Because with also changing behaviors, like changing behaviors takes like a couple weeks. So like we're changing the belief we are getting you used to changing this behavior or implementing a new behavior, I should say, by like listening. So for some people, it could be like a one and done, but remember, we're working with years, if not decades of a belief. So typically it's going to take you a couple times.
Yeah, I think it's just important to know that, right? Just to set that
Yeah.
expectation because,
Yeah. It's not
you know,
Amazon Prime.
well, that's the thing. We live in a culture where we can get anything right now. And
Yes.
and a lot of times the reason that people avoid doing this type of work is because it's not a quick fix. It's not a hack.
Hmm.
It's not a one and done type of situation.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
it's a journey of its own. And when you start to work with techniques like this, it's the stuff that helps free you on an ongoing basis, right? Like this is how you actually change your world. You've got to be willing. When people say do the work, this is the work. Listening to your audios, making the conscious decisions, like that kind of stuff. It feels like a lot in the moment, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes because you're forming new subconscious beliefs by doing this.
Yes. Yes. You're creating new empowering ones. And you'll start to see. I never put an expectation that all of a sudden there's this huge breakthrough. You start to notice subtle shifts along the way that lead to these like bigger results that you want. The biggest thing clients will share like after the second session is the way they are responding to people, things, and situations is far more different than how they used to. And to me, that's just like huge when you can live your life in that way where it's like not taking things personally or, oh, I would have had so much anger in this situation. I actually feel like very neutral about it right now. That's when like the shifts start happening.
That neutral point. That's a good one. When
Mm,
something that used to rock your world all of a sudden is like, okay, I see it. Or, it only gets a little height out of you instead of a whole leap. When you start to notice that, like, hey, that doesn't rock my world nearly as much as it used to, that's a celebratory moment, because that means
Huge.
things are sticking and changing for the good.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I have one client right now where there's been some dynamic with her and her mom, and she has been getting so angry. And that's one of the reasons why she came to me. And after the second session, she was like, my like outtake on this, like my outlook, like it's just very different in the way I'm responding to her. It's a very cool journey to witness from start to finish for the person.
Yes. I'll share an example that I'm currently experiencing is, working through the core belief that was formed as a child that, like, everything is hard and chaotic, right? That was the house that I grew up in. That was the energy that I knew. To get
Hmm.
anything, you had to, like, expend every ounce of yourself, and everything was always just a mess, right? It was always just heightened. And that's been, I mean, you want to talk about some deep, deep, deep grooves in the subconscious, that has nestled its way right in there. And it's something that I still am undoing to this day. And it just happened this morning, as a matter of fact. Actually, yesterday. It just happened yesterday. So typically, I record on Tuesdays. It's my podcast recording day. I've dedicated the day. And I've made some pretty big changes in my life recently. The audience knows about selling my business and really stepping into this next role, that things are becoming easy. And I noticed that easy is sometimes uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. So what do? My subconscious is like, I don't know how to handle this situation. Let's make things complicated. So long story short, I'm getting ready. Yesterday was Monday, and I knew that I'm recording on Tuesdays, and there's just a prep time, to prepare for these beautiful conversations and to make sure that I'm set up for success. And in the past, I would procrastinate doing that to make my Tuesday chaotic, because that felt more familiar to me. And I caught it
And even though you
yesterday.
don't want that,
I don't want that.
right? Even though you don't want it, it's what's familiar, aka what's safe for your subconscious. That's all it knows.
Correct. So when
Mhm.
you're changing things and getting the thing that you actually want, there's a process of releasing what felt safe into a new territory. So I caught this yesterday, and I because I've been doing the work, I caught it and I was like, I actually have a pretty lax afternoon today. I'm I'm going to prep today, and then tomorrow doesn't have to be chaotic. And again, it's uncomfortable, and I can feel that, like, inner tug and war, but I changed it. And so today has not been chaotic. In fact, I've been empowered because I'm like, I have white space, which is important to me. I feel prepared, which helps my confidence. And I've had amazing conversations today without my brain being all like, what the hell are you doing? So
Yeah.
it's just a real life scenario, like, actively in the last 24 hours, that I want people to know that it's not a quick fix or an overnight, but it's shiftable. You absolutely can shift it.
100%. And I love that you brought this up too, because again, like our minds can go to like, oh, it's so easy. Like we say we want that. Of course we should have that. Or like, we don't want things to be chaotic. Well, of course not. But if that is all we know, it's familiar. Familiar is what is safe to the subconscious. Anything unfamiliar is unsafe to it. So it's going to stick with the things that are familiar because they're safe. And that's such a good example.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the reason why people are like, I know what I want. What the heck is wrong with me? Why can't I
Hmm.
change it? I see it right in front of me. I don't understand what's going on. That's the reason.
Hmm. Yeah. Your world change when you just start to be more like aware of certain things. And like I always love to share too, because I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, you only need to work with me one-on-one, because I don't think that's accurate. Like there's so many things you can start doing for free on your own and at home to start shifting beliefs. And I always share people the first thing is like first getting clear on what you want. Because most of us don't. Most of us actually stay in the space of what we don't want. That was me for so long. But like getting clear on what you do want And then like if you can take a couple minutes before you go to bed or wake up in the morning, start visualizing that. Like what does it look like? What does it feel like? Like visualization is like a really great way to reprogram your mind. You could start doing that like, on your own. You could start doing that today.
I love this was actually one of my next questions was what can we start doing now? So visualization and feeling. I think
Hmm.
feeling is a big one because
Well,
that lights up a whole that's a whole body experience.
well, it starts generating the emotion in your body now. So it starts getting used to an emotion which may not be familiar. So that way, when the thing comes, it's familiar, right? And we're
Mm,
not like running away from it because it's not familiar. So I think the first thing is, yeah, just getting clear, like, what is it that you desire? Because a lot of us will be like, well, I don't want to be broke or I don't want to be stressed. Great. That's what you don't want. What do you want instead? Positively stated. You got to get it positively stated. And then just play it out in your mind. Great. Like when you're not stressed, you're now more calm and relaxed. What are you doing when you're more calm and relaxed? Who's around you? What does it feel like? What does that emotion feel like in your body? Get that emotion feeling like very familiar in your body. Like those are great ways that you can start reprogramming like on your own, comfort of your own home.
wow. And this can happen in minutes, right? Because I know a lot of people are
Yes.
like, oh, I don't have time and this and that. And first I
Two
say,
minutes,
yes.
literally 2 minutes. Just like see it in your mind, get really clear, feel it. Good. 2 minutes, you're good.
It's the consistency, right? Like you said,
Yes.
introducing it so that when these things do start to show up, because they
Hmm.
can and will, that you are more familiar with it and your body's like, oh hey you, like come on
Mhm.
in, I'm
I
familiar
know
with you.
this. I know this. I do that every night. Sometimes it's just like something as simple as like I'm visualizing my day for tomorrow. And something very similar to what you said too, like I desire a lot of white space as well. So I'm like, oh, okay, like how am I gonna feel about my day? Like what's gonna go really well? Like I'll just take a couple moments before I go to bed and like visualize the next day. Or if it's something bigger, like visualize a big goal, but it doesn't have to be this like big drawn out process.
Yes, let it be simple.
Let it be simple. That is the key word of today.
Yes, it sure is. um how how does this help like expedite success? How does this help
Yeah.
us to really like shift into a space where like your goals are happening faster, the success is coming easier? Like, how is this all kind of working together in the big picture?
Yeah. So I think it definitely helps shift things, achieve things faster. Obviously, I cannot put a stamp of approval on that timeline because every person and every situation is different. But when you look at things we typically do as humans, we're typically changing the behaviors or focusing on the behaviors and the how-to steps. Let's take a very popular thing, the beginning of a new year, weight loss. People are focusing on the behavioral things, like I'm going to the gym, like I'm going to eat right, like all those things. But if you have like a mindset or a belief system that's not supporting you, those behaviors are going to be like very short term. So when you combine, because it's not like, oh, just the beliefs and not the behaviors. When you combine the two, it's going to help you get to where you want to be a lot faster because you have your beliefs on board and you have the behaviors on board. You need the two of them. They have to go in tandem.
Hmm.
It's like the how to and the beliefs.
Yes. Yeah, because you can think about something all day long, but if you don't take any kind of action, you're just gonna be thinking.
Exactly. Yeah. So you got to have action and then you got to have the belief system because it's like the action and the behaviors. Yeah, you might get short-term results, but when you actually shift the beliefs, it's going to be long-term results.
Hmm. Ooh. Oh,
Hmm.
that's good. Long-term
Yeah.
results.
And that's what
This
we
is
want. We don't want the short-term like 1 month and then we go back to our ways, right? Like that's what I used to do for like a lot of things. Or I would always be the, oh, I'm starting on Monday. I'm gonna start that eating behavior or whatever it is on Monday. No, you get like more long-term results when you bring the beliefs on board.
hmm. Something else that came up that I'd love to chat about for a second is there's a little bit of scare tactics sometimes when we're talking about what we are thinking about, like what we focus on grows, where we put our attention is what gets amplified. And I know sometimes people worry about their thoughts and feelings in fear that
Mm,
I'm calling something bad to me, right? Like if you have a natural fear or you've been thinking about something like, oh my gosh, now am I manifesting a terrible thing to come into my life. Is that a real thing? Can we debunk that? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, yes or no. Like your thoughts are really powerful. Like it's what you're speaking into your subconscious. And like even if I hypothetically were to like gossip about somebody and say like, "Oh my God, they're such a fraud." My subconscious is not hearing me or does not know I'm talking about that person. It thinks I'm talking about me. So
Oh,
that's also like something to be aware of too when you're talking about other people. Like it's literally taking what you say and like thinking it's about you. Um, but the more you start to do inner work, you just start to get a little bit more aware of those thoughts. And then you can like shift them really easily. Like I've been doing this work for a while, but I still have those thoughts. I mean, like I'm a human being. Of course I do. But you just get more aware and then you can start like shifting them. So that's why I say to anybody, like, yeah, like think about the thoughts that are popping up for you, just be consciously aware of them. Sometimes I'll give clients, I call it a switch task. Like one of them was her phrase was just like, well, I don't know. I don't know. And I was like, you know. So her thing was anytime she caught herself saying, I don't know, because it's feeding into that limiting belief for her. Like she's continuously just telling herself like she doesn't know. And she came to me because she has a lack of clarity and direction. Ironic, right?
look at that. Yeah.
Um, and so her switch task was anytime she hears herself saying it, you just say in your mind or say out loud, switch. I know. So
Mm.
it's like your brain's also hearing like the word switch to switch it. So that's like what anybody could also start doing if you maybe always say to yourself, well, like, I can't be successful or I can't do it. Just start to be a little consciously aware of it. And anytime you hear yourself say it, just then automatically say, switch. I can do it. I can be successful. And just like you'll start to you'll just be wowed at yourself actually, like what actually starts to transpire from that.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
simple again.
It
It's these,
is
but it's the act of doing it. That's the difference, right? Like
100%.
a lot of things can be very simple, but if you're
Mm-hmm.
not doing it, it's completely irrelevant. So I love these kind of
Yes.
bite-sized items that you're sharing with us today because these are things that people can do like right now. Like the switch is
Yes.
brilliant. I always tell people if you don't notice yourself, right? If you have no awareness of what you're thinking or feeling, it's nearly impossible to change anything. Bringing that awareness to that thought or feeling and then taking that subtle action, like you said, with switch over and over again, it creates a new path in your brain.
Yes. And what you're doing is you're just taking that thought from like it's you've been saying it so long and like your subconscious awareness, you're bringing it into your conscious, but then the repetition piece puts it back in your subconscious in a different way.
Ooh. So it's like a
Mhm.
Lego set, right?
Yeah,
Like
oh, I like that.
you get the box, the instructions tell you to do it one way. That's where it currently is. You bring it up front, you tear it all down or pop the pieces apart. You put it together in a new way and you send it back in.
100%. I like that.
Amazing. Any final tips or suggestions for people that are listening that are interested in hypnosis work on how they can start to do some of this on their own time?
Yeah, I say first and foremost, I'm always an open book, like open door. So any questions, I would say ask. I'm obviously not going to be the right hypnotherapist for every person, but I have a bunch of referrals, so I'm always happy to share. And then like you also don't need someone one-on-one all the time either. Like I said, like I would just start with like noticing your thoughts and like noticing what you desire. Get super specific. You just saying you want more money is not specific because you could like see a penny on the ground, pick it up, and your subconscious is like, bingo, we just made more money. So like get really specific. You want more money? How much more? How much? You want to attract more clients in your business? Great. How many? Get super specific and then start that visualization process like before you go to bed at night or even when you wake up first thing. Those are just like my favorite ways to share that you could start doing right now.
Amazing. Yeah, and like you said earlier, you will be absolutely amazed at how much power you actually really have. When you start tapping into
Mhm.
that and using it, it's like, well, holy shit, this
A
stuff
well
actually
of
works.
infinite wisdom.
I love that. Love that so much. Julie, I know that we could talk a lot about hypnosis and the work that you do. I personally have experienced it and have had so much success from it. And I know you're helping a lot of people. So, where can everyone find and connect with you? And what are some next steps they could take with you?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram is, I feel like, where I hang out the majority of the time. So Instagram, julie.m as in Mary, dot Costa. Website's the same, juliemcosta.com. And then next steps, I always send to my email community a free audio every single month, whether it's a hypnosis, whether it's a subliminal audio. And then I do have a free hypnosis audio to attract clients. So like if you do want to get a taste of it.
Amazing. We'll make sure that we link everything in the show notes. My final
Yeah.
question for you today, my friend, is what does the word gutsy mean to you?
Oh, gutsy. Oh, this is a good one. What does the word gutsy mean to me? Taking action is like the first thing that comes to mind. Taking action may not always feel comfortable, but while doing it and after doing it, I feel like this incredible sense of accomplishment and like pride.
Amazing. Action is powerful. It helps to move
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Julie, thank you so much for the work that you do. Thanks for sharing your time and your wisdom with us today, and keep putting that amazing energy out in the world. I'm receiving it, and I know a lot of people are too.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Julie has some really incredible resources that I use on a regular basis, so I absolutely recommend going to the show notes and signing up for her newsletter to start taking advantage of some of this incredible information that can help you shift. And if you're ready to take that one step further, you've been teetering on the fence of a change, you want to shift something, but you just need a little bit of guidance on what to do next, then go to lauraora.com and sign up for a clarity session. I'd love to hear what this episode did for you today, what resonated, what felt interesting to you. Connect with me on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. You can find me using @thatlauraora. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.